anyone with lungs can get lung cancer.
These people are fighting. It makes you want to fight that much harder.
She said, I don't want to die because I did nothing.
There's still hope.
And we believe there's an answer for everyone if you look far enough.
Imagine celebrating the birth of your second child and your life is full of joy. You're young, running a successful business, and looking forward to a promising future with your beautiful family. Now imagine you're suddenly told you have stage 4 lung cancer and the prognosis looked grim. That's what happened to Lisa Briggs in 2014 at just the age of 32 years old. The news was met with disbelief, then shock. But soon, Lisa was in full action as her will to live proved stronger than her devastating cancer story.
My name is Lisa Briggs and I'm a mother of 2 small children and I'm from Melbourne, Australia. Well, it all started when I was pregnant with my second child. I was 32 years of age and having some difficulty breathing. 4 months after giving birth, that's when I coughed up blood for the first time. And so I ended up in an ambulance to a hospital nearby where they revealed I had lung cancer. And my whole world just shattered in that moment in time. And I thought, how am I going to tell my family this?
So it was 6 o'clock in the morning.
The day after Christmas.
Day after Christmas. Lisa went in to say goodbye to Jazz. Lisa felt that
that was it.
That was it.
And told her I loved her.
Yeah.
And I'd always be in her heart. And we walked out and we went to the hospital. At times it was minute by minute. There were times when I would actually have to visualize myself riding a wave and knowing that eventually that wave would push me to shore and I'd start to feel a bit better. I felt like I was in the deep ocean and I was there by myself trying to find a way out, and I had waves crashing on me, and all I could do was take a breath of air and then hope that eventually the tide would just push me in. That's pretty much how I felt for 18 months after diagnosis. Living with lung cancer, you know, it's such an isolating disease. There's really not a lot of people to connect with. And eventually, when I did finally connect with some people online, one of the girls there had reached out to me and said, "You really need to contact Bonnie. She's an amazing source of support." And she said, "Don't worry, Lisa, we're here for you. We've got this. We're going to help you." And straight away, her connections, her networks. The great thing about the foundation is that it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can connect. My hope for lung cancer is that it will be made a priority, that people will stand up and say, this is a problem we want to fix, and we're going to work tirelessly until we fix it. My husband's incredibly positive and I've got such amazing support around me that keep me going every day. But at the end of the day, my children are my will to live. And it didn't matter what side effects I was going through, how much pain I was in, you know, the issues that I was having, the lack of energy, I just had my focus point. And that focus will always carry me through.
Joining me from Melbourne, Australia is Lisa Briggs and her husband, Kirk. It's pretty early in the morning there, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your story. Let's continue to talk about the beginning of that cancer journey for you, Lisa. You were young, you never smoked, and you were in great shape. The doctors initially told you it was pregnancy-related, asthma. Take us through those days when you were trying to discover what was going on with your health. You're this young woman, pregnant with this baby. How did you get to this diagnosis?
So of course, nobody suspected it was lung cancer, not even me. And we accepted that it's probably pregnancy-related asthma. So I used an inhaler my entire pregnancy.
Wow.
I was seeing my GP constantly. I think it was something like 16 visits in around 10 months. And he ordered me a chest X-ray at 38 weeks, but that was clear. And then it wasn't until after I gave birth that I coughed up blood and was admitted into the emergency department of a hospital. Unfortunately, they thought I had bronchitis, so they handed me a script and sent me home, but I knew I just wasn't right. I was in severe pain. I couldn't lay. There wasn't much I could do. And so the next day we went to the GP again. That's when I had a CT scan ordered. And I remember receiving that phone call from the GP saying, "You need to come in, I need to see you." When I came in, he tried to be very calm and said, "We don't quite know yet what's wrong, but we have seen there may be a mass in your lung." And so rushed me off to another hospital. And it was there where I think I continued to deteriorate. The bleeding was clearly still occurring in my lungs. And I know myself, there was just no rational thinking on my behalf. It was a really confusing time. So there's a lot that I possibly don't remember. But I also remember coming out from the bronchoscopy and asking the nurse, "What is it? Did they find anything?" And she said, "Yes, there were some clots in your lung." So I thought I had a pulmonary embolism, so a clot in my lungs. And then that afternoon, another doctor came in my room and he said to me, as they do, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I have a blood clot." And he said, "No, you have lung cancer."
Oh, my goodness.
And that really put me into shock.
But I want to bring in Kirk a little bit. It's already that you're these young parents, you have a toddler, and you're just finding out, both of you, about this unimaginable thing called lung cancer. How did you manage? I mean, it's tough enough to have a toddler and a baby on the way under normal circumstances, but now you're dealing with a life and death situation.
I think at that time it was straight into, okay, what do we need to do for Lise? What is it that Lise needs? And then calling on family to sort of help us out with, making sure the kids have what they needed. We were very fortunate that we had family and then organisations around us in terms of helping out with the kids that sort of stepped in. So my role within that was, making sure that Lise was calm, making sure that she was in a situation where when there was information coming, the two of us could talk about that and we could work through it together. So there was a lot going on at that time, and it was, making sure that everyone around us was as calm as possible so that we were able to, I suppose, make good decisions given the bad situation to help us get to the point that we're at now.
I wonder, Lisa and Kirk, what were your greatest fears at this point?
Yeah, well, I remember sitting in hospital and I looked at Kirk and I said, "I'm never going to see AJ crawl or walk. He's never going to say my name. I'm never going to see Jasmine go to school." And it was amazing. I'll never forget that moment. Kirk held my hand and he said, "You've done a lot in your life and you have come up against a lot of challenges, and no matter what, you will see those things." And he was right. So there were fears, but I think together we worked hard to try to get to points that allowed us to overcome those fears and to see those things that we both really desperately wanted.
Yeah, look, there's always in the back of your mind when you hear something like lung cancer, it's, well, what's going to happen? Is Lise going to be okay? And then you sort of, your mind drifts off into that, okay, so what do I need to do now? Because I need to keep the kids calm and safe. You start to worry about, well, what if Lise isn't around? And that was something that was real. That was something that was definitely a fear of, losing my wife, losing, the mother of, our two kids. How is that going to impact them and me? And so you do start to drift off into that space, and you'd have to bring yourself back and get yourself into a situation where you start to go, okay, what do we do now so that we don't have to have those concerns just at this point in time? We need to deal with the present right this moment.
Certainly. Lisa, in Bonnie O'Dario's book, I really enjoyed reading about your belief in really empowering your mind through a positive mental training program, and it involved some hypnosis, some deep relaxation. Guide us through that program, and how did you do it? How did it help you? What would you tell others that are going through this to incorporate that in their life?
Yeah, I mean, that program was amazing for me, and it totally transformed everything about my progress moving forwards, So I did some work with a neuro-linguistic programming guy. His name was Jeffrey Hodges, and his program was traditionally designed for athletes. And as someone who has worked with athletes, for a lot of my career, I understood that what was required mentally for an athlete actually felt no different to what was required for a cancer patient.
Wow.
And it was actually an athlete friend of mine, Lydia Lasilla, she's an aerial skier. She recommended his program and said, Lisa, you should try it, which I did. And yes, we did. We did lots of visualizations. I used to visualize myself turning 80 years of age, blowing out the candles of my cake, seeing my great-grandkids run around in the backyard. And then there would be other things that I would really focus on depending on what I wanted to challenge myself with. We set ourselves goals. Mm-hmm. So I had goals every week. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it just gave me something to focus on that was really positive during a time where I could have allowed my mind to go in a place that, wouldn't have helped me.
Sure. I wonder, what is your routine today? It's my understanding that you are totally focusing on your health. You've given up your business and your focus is on your health, nutrition. You also incorporate Chinese medicine. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about that, Lisa?
I think when you're managing a cancer diagnosis, you have to figure out all the things that you need, what makes you feel good as a person, because we are a person behind our disease and we still need to function as best as we can. So obviously I'm using, I'm still on my current treatment, but I'm using alternative therapies to help balance out and make me feel good, Mm-hmm. So right now I'm exercising with resistance training 3 days a week. I'm still doing my yoga, Chinese medicine, nutrition, and it changes. My routine does change. It's not consistent. What I do now is not what I did, 18 months ago, so to speak, because I adapt it depending on what I need at that time. But yeah, that's my routine right now.
And I want to mention, in the research that I did in getting ready to speak with you, your prose and how you describe things are so beautiful. And as a former English teacher, I was like, is she going to write a book? And a book has come out of this experience. Please tell us about that. You're really wonderful with words. Oh, look at that. Why did you write this book in the midst of all that you were going through?
I suppose I've always been one to want to help others. So like my whole professional life was about, as an osteopath and exercise physiologist, was about giving back to others. And this program really transformed my life. And it wasn't cheap. And I thought to myself, how can other people with cancer benefit from this without having to pay the money that is required to do it? But then still benefit from it. And that's when, the book idea came up, because it's sort of cheap and affordable, but it sort of has in it all the important parts of how to use your use your mind on a daily basis to overcome some of the fears and challenges that you face. And it was really therapeutic, actually. I enjoyed it because it allowed me to feel positive about passing on what I had learnt to others. And for me, that just fills my heart.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. Tell us what your prognosis is today, and how do you keep yourself hopeful?
Oh, look, after dealing what we dealt with at the start with prognosis, that's sort of not something we typically tend to focus our lives on now. We honestly, I did have a conversation with my oncologist recently, and we had a little joke about the fact that his goal is to keep me alive for at least the next 30 to 40 years. So I don't have an end mark, so to speak, that I'm looking at. But surrounding myself with people who are hopeful. So my medical team, people like Bonnie Adario. I mean, who else would you want to surround yourself by or with? She's the epitome of hope. And I've obviously got my amazing husband, my kids, my family, my friends. That's how I keep myself hopeful. Eliminating the things that aren't important, the things that I don't need, and keeping the things that matter.
And Kirk, what would be your response? What is hope for you now?
It's making sure that we have things to look forward to, and we don't focus so much on what it is that I guess Lisa's managing. Of course, we put time into that, but we turn it into, okay, we've spent time doing that. Now let's go have some fun and enjoy our family and our opportunities that make us feel like we're experiencing things together.
And speaking of hope, there's no way that we can have this conversation without, as you said it, Lisa, the epitome of hope, and the lady that is absolutely envisioning those 80 birthday candles on that birthday cake for you. And that lady is none other than Bonnie Adario of the Bonnie J. Adario Lung Cancer Foundation, who you interfaced with and who gave you amazing advice and support. Bonnie is here today with us. So good to see you again, Bonnie. Bonnie, how did you come to meet Lisa and her family all the way in Australia?
Oh, well, meeting Lisa was one of the most amazing things I've done since I was diagnosed myself. We were running a study for young lung cancer, and part of that study was to find patients and then have their doctor take a blood sample, put it in a vial. We sent the patient the kit. Patient gives the physician the kit. And then the blood comes back to the United States, and, we did the research with that, and we're still doing it today. So Lisa and Kirk and their two babies got on an airplane. They flew all the way to South San Francisco, where our office is. And Lisa and Kirk were staying in a hotel in the city in San Francisco. And we sent a phlebotomist up to the hotel to take her blood. And then, that, of course, went into the research project. And the next day, Lisa and Kirk and the kids came to our office. And it was the first time, this is going to make me cry. It makes me cry every time I tell this story. The first time we actually saw each other in person.
Oh my God! That's funny!
We were both bawling. We were hanging on to each other so hard, you had to rip us apart. I think we cried for at least a half an hour before we could get a word in edgewise. And it's been like that ever since.
I wonder, Bonnie, if you can go into a little bit for our audience, why is it so important to study young people for this cancer study? What's behind this genomics of young lung cancer study?
Well, if you looked for lung cancer in a patient 20 years ago, that young, you wouldn't find one. So there's something going on, whether it's in the food we eat, or other maladies that are happening to just these kids. These young people, they're the complete antithesis of what a lung cancer patient experiences. They they're young. They respond amazingly to targeted markers that allows them to take a pill instead of chemotherapy. So they're different. They're not like other lung cancers. Mm-hmm. And we're determined to find out what that difference is and to see if we can't get rid of it.
Your work is amazing, Bonnie, and I just want to thank you so much on behalf of all cancer survivors. And Lisa and Kirk, this question is for both of you. If it isn't evident now, tell us, how did meeting Bonnie change your life? I love the story in the book about using a trip to Disney World to get involved in this genomic study. On one side, it's kind of funny, but on the other side, it's quite serious. How was this life-changing for you to meet Ms. Dario?
I think for me, it's Bonnie's there, someone that I can always reach out to when things are going on within Lisa's treatments and within Lisa's scans. I know that I've got Bonnie there that I can send a quick message to and sort of go, hey, this is where we're at, or look, I think Lisa would really benefit from hearing from you. Can you guys have a bit of a conversation?
I think she's amazing. I call her my US mum because she has nurtured me like a mum. I will never forget the day I first met Bonnie, and if I close my eyes, I can actually feel that hug. It's something that will never leave me. And she connected with me in a way that I've never had here in Australia. She didn't just care about my cancer, like she cared about Lisa, the person. And she genuinely cared about, Kirk and my children. And, there was, every time I speak to her, it's, how are you going? No, how are you going? I want to know about you. I don't want to know about your cancer. Tell me about the cancer later. So, she's just an amazing person, and she's really changed our lives. And I would fly across the other end of the world for you 1,000,000 times, Bonnie. You know that. So,
Bonnie, when your name comes up, it's hope for sure. And I'm always hearing about these great hugs. But very quickly, Bonnie, what is your immediate wish for lung cancer?
For it to be wiped off the face of this earth. Period. And I can honestly say that for the first time, I really feel like we can do that. Not just me, myself, and I, and not just us, but we're making such good strides with biomarker testing, and there's no two patients alike. There's no two therapies alike, and we have to test them, get their own personal biomarkers, and put them on the right drug at the right time. And that's happening, and that's why Lisa's still here today. And if, God forbid, she progresses again, we'll find another drug for her. We'll take more genomic tests, and we'll keep this going. So it's possible. We can do it. Our foundation 5 years ago made a decision to double the survival of lung cancer. At the time, it was only 10%, but we doubled it. 5 years later, it was 20%. We made the same challenge this year, and right now, lung cancer is 20%. So 40% will be the survival rate. We've got some work to do, but we're on the right path, and it was the path we were not on for a very, very long time. So there's hope.
That's fantastic. Oh, there is always hope. And Bonnie, before I go back to Lisa, I want to, in your book, you quote Nelson Mandela, it's impossible, it seems impossible until it's done, and you are doing it. Lisa,
until it's done.
That's right.
Right.
Lisa, before we go, how important is gratitude to you? You talked about building your business on this holistic living. Talk about gratitude with our audience and how important that is.
You know, I think gratitude is absolutely important in life. You know, it's one of the biggest values I try to instill in my children. I think we both do, because I think when you have gratitude, you come from your heart. You come from a place of love and kindness.
Wow.
You're appreciative of the things that around you and the people who do things for you, and putting that out to the universe is pretty important. You know, I think we get so caught up in our lives and what's happening and what needs to happen next, that if we just took a moment to sit back and pause and reflect and just appreciate, we would all be so much better off.
Thank you so much for that. And you mentioned your family and how important your kids are, but I have heard that Miss Addario would love to see those babies. Are they ready to make their Hope is Here debut? Look at this beautiful family with this beautiful portrait of all of this hope, this beautiful family, and of course, Ms. Bonnie Addario. Lisa and Kirk, thank you for getting up so early this morning and sharing your story of determination and encouragement. And Bonnie, it's always wonderful to enjoy your hopeful spirit, and you all prove that miracles are all around us. Thank you so much. Hope is indeed here, right here. Look at those faces. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.